Hi, thank you for joining this webinar with Proline and Microsoft today. We'll be talking about Windows 11 as well as the new Proline notebook lineup. Let's kick it off between myself and Jonathan discussing the Proline notebook lineup. Thank you for joining us today for the Proline Microsoft Pinnacle webinar to discuss our Proline and Microsoft 11 My name is Gareth Pretorius, and I am the retail BDM for Proline, and the gentleman to the left of me is Jonathan Nelson, the BDM for e-commerce. Today we're going to predominantly discuss the links on Microsoft, as well as how Proline, how they work together. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the Proline story and what about Proline. For those of you who don't know, I will refresh and keep it as brief and entertaining as possible, as well as educational, so you can understand it. Proline is in a segment within Pinnacle distribution. We are a vendor, but we are fully funded and run by Pinnacle. We predominantly look after desktops, notebooks, UPS, and that's where we play in. We are going to only really talk about the notebooks, as I said earlier. So we're going to predominantly go. Jonathan and I will just go through the different segments about Proline and what we are about, and then we'll go from there. So, Jonathan, I don't know, I'm going to grab one of our notebooks and we can start talking about them. For those of you who haven't seen the different chassis and the breakdowns of the Proline notebooks, Proline used to do notebooks a while ago. We've only re-released notebooks within the business, about a year ago, where we predominantly supply the students and government sectors, and now we are playing a lot bigger in the retail side of the business. So, without any further stuff, Jonathan, I don't know if you want to step in and talk about our chassis and a little bit about the Microsoft modern device, etc., driving on that.
Cool, perfect. So Proline's obviously gone with ever-changing technology. Proline's had to adapt with technology quite a bit in terms of Windows modern device, and to make the offering a little bit more enticing for people to choose a South African brand rather than your tier one brands, as they call them. So with that in mind, Proline has gone and created devices around Windows modern device. Now, Windows modern device is basically just a stipulation from Microsoft saying that it has to be thin and light, it has to have an SSD, and there's multiple criteria that does change according to what technology is on offer at the time. So Proline has taken that under its wing and kind of made that its determining factor of entering the South African market, especially on notebooks. So we can start off with our notebook offering, and I'll talk about it as a whole. We've got everything from some things with hard drives, some things with SSDs. If you want to know the difference between the two, obviously hard drives are mechanical spinning drives. They are generally slower, whereas SSDs or solid state drives, they are basically solid state. So there's no spinning disks. It has less power consumption. Boot up times are faster. So it's a lot better experience for somebody to be operating with something with an SSD than without. So that is one of our key focuses. And we focus on two forms of solid state drive, one being an M.2 or NVMe SSD, and then we also focus on eMMC, which is an embedded memory card. So these are the types of offerings to make sure that our notebooks are of good offering when people actually use them. They're not stuck with something that they're waiting like 2-3 minutes or something to boot up. The boot up times are nice and quick. So that's amenable for students, young professionals, people that are just looking for a notebook for everyday use.
I like that you said that the Proline is sitting in the new market space and moving the product along, because again, as technology moves around and we are pushing the brands to the younger generation, the student side, the technology needs to move and moves to move up on their side. I totally agree with you. The uptime and the runtime of the notebook needs to be and step into that side. Jonathan, maybe speak about what the differences are of just on the breakdown. I know on Microsoft, one of the stipulations is that it needs to be an SSD on a modern device. Maybe speak about the weight and the kind of design of the notebook, of where we've got to be with that in the modern device.
So the devices have to be of a certain weight and size, and the reason for that is because, I mean, anybody 20 years ago would pick up a notebook and it was like picking up a brick, or like the old yellow pages, if I'm not giving my age away too much. But it was was a big thing. The battery would last generally maybe an hour and a half max. The battery recharge time is 5, 6, 7 hours. So as technology's adapted, Microsoft have said, well, in order for us to endorse this as a Microsoft modern device, it needs to be something that is thin and light, portable, that's going to give the user experience, well, going to give a good user experience. Because if they're putting that badge or that certification behind the device, they're also staking their name behind that device. So in light of that, Proline has been designed in order to be that thin, light, mobile type of chassis. In students, young professionals, but with that in mind, it's also a great thing about the Proline device is it does have SSD and it does conform to Windows modern device. They will all have Windows 11, just depending on the model or SKU. We have quite a few variables, so it'd be difficult to just go and list them one on one. But the nice thing about them is they're also upgradable. Well, many of them are upgradable where you can change out the SSD drive, you're able to upgrade the RAM. So even if you're coming in as an entry level, you still have the ability to be able to upgrade that notebook so that it does run faster and does keep up with times. Because with modern programs, the RAM usage is becoming higher and higher, whereas maybe 6 years ago, 2 gigs of RAM was enough, then 4, now 8. So soon we're going to be in a space where it's 16 because the architecture of programs are constantly changing and becoming more demanding. If anyone's been paying attention to the news, Intel has just released 12th gen, and they actually work very well with Microsoft in order to create a operating system that works in tandem with each other. So I may be rambling on a bit, but the point is that a device with the modern device accreditation has to give a good user experience and has to be meanable for that user to use it.
I know you were talking about the variants in the Proline range. What we actually have got at the moment, and we can also just mention that and come into discussion of that. Currently, the Proline notebook comes in 11.6 inch, which is predominantly used for the universities and schools, etc. And that our retail models go up to the 14 inch, as well as the 11.6 inch. And that's where we're currently sitting in the Proline ranging. We are now in talks to do the 15 inch and moving on to the 15 inch as well, also conforming to the Microsoft rules and stepping into that, because Microsoft kind of, as you know, changes sometimes their stipulation year by year as technology grows and as it moves and where we've got to be within the product side. Jonathan, also just on some of the discussion points with the Proline notebook, you're talking about battery life and the drive with battery life. Perhaps you can talk about also with the load shedding, where we're sitting with battery life. What is the average time that we sit on notebooks, and depending on, I know it's also depending on what we're using on the notebook for, but perhaps you could talk about that a little bit and talk about that.
So apologies if it does get a bit too technical, but with load shedding, we were experiencing about 4-hour stints. Now it's gone down to 2.5 hours, just depending on your area and your usage. So your notebook has to be able to last the duration of load shedding, which is super important. Now, most modern devices, pretty much all of them actually will use lithium-ion batteries. Now, the battery inside this, depending on the milliwatt hours. Sorry, just
no problem.
Brain gone. But milliamps, there we go. Yeah. The milliamps. They have to be able to last for that duration. But what's also extremely awesome is that with Windows, it started on 8 and it evolved into 11. I've been using Windows 11 for quite a bit of time now. There's actually quite a few programs that you can use inside Windows where you can lower the brightness. If you just click on the battery, you're able to actually say, I want to go into power saving mode. And what that'll do is it'll shut down certain services inside that laptop. So with regards to answering your question, is that battery has to be able to last. And generally with these notebooks, experiencing and having used them, they would last 3 to 4 hours, depending on what type of exercise you're performing.
So well into that, as long as, I know we're living in South Africa and the things change of where we've got to go. If we don't have a little ESCOM in the back of our thing, it's well into the load shedding period, where the whole thing, I think, around Proline, where we're driving on Proline, is to be more smart, to like move around and to be able to use our notebooks off the power and off the thing when we're not plugged in or when we're driving, the whole mobility side of the notebooks. If I could, Jonathan, we could just go. So the V series, which is the one that you guys see here, and I will turn it around and let you have a look more, a little bit better on it. The V series comes in different variants, as Jonathan mentioned. It comes from a 500 spindle, as he said, right up until 128 SSD. Again, sticking into Microsoft's modern device stipulations of where it is. Obviously, the 500 gig spindle is not a modern device; it's a separate side. It has to be SSD for modern device as well. Okay, so let's talk about currently. Proline has got two chassis within its series in the V series. We've got a V series, which drives right up until the 11.6 inch, up until a 14 inch, which is predominant, also available in silver and black. I know Jonathan's also talking about retail, and we both retail, call it junkies or retail fundies, we've been upwarding, but we also push a lot in channel. Okay, so channel it's very much available in channel. We are and Pinnacle has obviously got a full channel and section available for everyone in channel. So it's not we're excited about retail because we've just really restarted.
And it's cool to see your brand in retail.
Absolutely, yeah. It's a huge thing. We to see things like Proline in Vodacom now and Proline into the macro side of the business is a big thing for us. So yes, of course, it is exciting, it is nice, but let's not forget about the smaller PC game worlds and etc. and the huge PCs etc. that play in that side, as well as BCX, for instance, and then those guys that also predominantly buy a lot of that stuff. Anyway, back to the different chassis. So this is a V1 series chassis. Okay, again, coming with. I'm going to talk a little bit about what it comes into the. Also, again, guys, it's dependent on which variant of the notebook you're buying. Again, Proline only goes up to an i3. We are again also looking at going to a i5 as of next year. But what Jonathan was saying is quite correct. We play in that entry segment and the entry level, so that's why we had decided not to go higher than an i3 as we talk now. Things are changing though, and we are moving with the times. This specific one is a Celeron. Okay, it currently has. Jonathan, I'm actually going to give it to you because you got more spec on that thing. Obviously, this hasn't got an RJ45, and when I say RJ45, certain things won't have a RJ45 because of, and that is your normal network cable that we plug in. But I do have a variant that does have an RJ45. So Jonathan, I'm going to let you talk about the ports and the different things on the notebooks. Maybe you can just go and then just have a chat around them.
So because of the size of the laptop, it's obviously going to have less ports. So we're finding this more and more inside of not just entry-level laptops as a whole, unless you go to gaming. And with regard to an RJ45, if you do need something like that, there's very easy abilities to get a adapter that is USB. So on the side, you'll see that there's a micro SD slot, obviously a jack or a 3.5mm jack to plug in your headset. That offers obviously sound as well as the ability to speak. So it's a hybrid. And then you'll have a USB 2.0. If we turn it around, and I just want to make sure that I am correct here. Yeah. You'll have DC power in, another USB 2, and then you'll have mini HDMI. So you do still have the ability to be able to project onto a TV. Yeah.
Okay, that's brilliant. Okay, so that's the V1 series. I'm going to go quickly grab our Elegance model, which is the latest Proline notebook we've just brought in, and we can speak a little bit about this guy. I'm just going to open it for you guys so you guys can have a look-see at it. This is a super design on the notebook. You can actually have a look at the actual keying and the layouts of the notebook of where it is, the size and the weight, again, conforming to where it is. This is definitely by far my favorite notebook within Proline. I'll over to you, Jonathan. You can jump on that.
So the design of it is a plastic design, but as you can see, quite thin and light
and sturdy.
Yeah, really it's got a nice robust feeling. If you see there, it does have a form of lift, so that any laptop or most laptops, call it 99% of laptops, actually take air in from underneath. And with a lot of especially thin laptops, airflow is extremely important. I'm more into like the gaming section, so like cooling is extremely important to me, but it's going to be equally important because a lot of laptops that are coming out nowadays are also fanless design. You'll see this on some of our Celerons, and people like fanless design. That's cool. It just means that there's a massive copper sheet underneath the actual PCB or printed circuit board that dissipates the heat. So from this, it does lift, so it does have nice air intake from underneath. I'm actually going to show something at the back, which is called a dim door. So a lot of laptops have actually stopped doing this dim door, or just call it a back end door. So what it means is you actually have to take it to a professional, which has to open up the chassis, or if you're brave enough to do it yourself. But with this door, you literally just unscrew those, and you'd be able to either extend your RAM or extend your storage, depending on which it is. So with regards to this device, it does have USB 2. So USB 2 speeds, if you did want to know, is 480 megabytes per second. So it's not going to be as fast as Thunderbolt 4, Thunderbolt 3, or USB 3.1 or 3.2.
Where we're playing.
Exactly. Yeah. So, but it is fast enough. 480 megs per second is still sufficient. It's going to be sufficient for data transfer files, and we've moved a long way. And this is obviously on USB, well, the A. So. Yeah. Then there's a little flap that would lift open, and the reason for that flap is so that the device actually stays on that thin and light level. Mm-hmm. So when you do plug that in, that'll obviously extend. And then on the other side, we've got your headphone jack as well as a mini HDMI. Or was that on the other side? That was on the other side. A USB 2 and then a micro SD. So multiple options to be able to also extend your storage. If you do want, you can put a high-end micro SD in, and that will be able to act as another drive in which you're able to store and also transport data.
So again, like you said, Jonathan, the cooling side of the notebook obviously allows, and the nice thing about this notebook, as we open, you can actually see how it pushes it. I think you can see it a little bit better as Jonathan had it on that side of the notebook where it allows the cooling side of it. Then talk about the keys versus the V series. I don't know, the layout and stuff like that. I know it doesn't have a num keypad, but obviously that's also upgradable, and that, or to put it that side. And again, the reason it's not having that is because we're trying to stick to portability, size, and all that kind of stuff on the notebook.
Yeah, so you'll find with most anything below a 13-inch laptop is not going to have a numpad. It's just because it physically can't fit, or the keys would be so small it'd be like, trying to type on raisins.
Using little chopsticks to type.
So it wouldn't work. The keyboard layout is a good layout. It's your standard QWERTY keyboard. And you do still have your functions or your function home end, page up, page down on the side. So that does help, obviously, when working with Excel and those types of programs. And you'll notice how close it actually is to the edges of the body or the chassis. So having typed on this laptop before, one of the nice things is it's also increased the size of the tracker pad on the mouse. So, and it's also a nice, smooth sheen surface. A lot of times when you tracker it's very difficult because as soon as you sweat, it doesn't pick up, which I didn't find with this one. The keys are also slightly curved, which makes typing a lot easier, but it's a nice basic layout, and it's a good typing experience with also your function key. And you'll see that with function, and you'll find this on most laptops, to be fair, but anything in blue, you'll be able to push function, and that is anything from upping your volume, lowering your volume, muting, going forward in a movie, going back in a movie, depending on which media you're working on.
And then obviously this bezel's slightly different now that we've spoken about bezels and stuff. And then so this bezel's a little more sexier and a little more tight if I take the size of the notebook.
100%. So yeah, the bezels here looking at about 2.5 mils. But with any laptop that does have a webcam, so some webcams that actually be built into the bottom, which is strange because it offers a very weird angle. So I always like to have the webcam at the top because then you're actually looking at the person that's looking at you. It just creates a more personal feeling. And I know the subject has been absolutely milked, but with COVID having happened and everybody having to work from home, video conferencing has become so important, and obviously being able to be mobile or be in your house and still be able to log into a conference call depending on where you are. So With regards
Also
to any
students
laptop,
and student doing,
100%.
the nice thing about the Proline notebooks is they all have webcams. Every single one of them has a webcam on it.
And you'll see that the bezel is a little bit thicker on the top, and this is pretty much standard with every notebook because it has to accommodate for a camera, which I believe this one's a 720 pixel camera. That's 0.9 megapixels.
Okay.
720p 0.9.
Jumping onto that. So, Jonathan, I think we've pretty much vastly covered a lot of the notebooks or a lot about Proline and the back side. Just jumping on Windows 11 and getting more in depth with Windows 11 and the Proline notebooks being Windows 11 ready, etc. How difficult is it to move from a Windows OS, from a Windows 10, even some people might even be on a Windows 8 or something to drive? How difficult is it to move to the Windows 11 OS?
So it's actually quite simple. If you do have a device at home and you do want to try it, you can actually go just to your Windows upgrades. There's a little program that you can download, and it's basically like a Windows health check, and it'll say the status of your PC and if your PC is eligible. And basically one of the key components that it has to be is what's called TMP 2.0 on desktop and just TMP enabled in your BIOS. So technically, all that you need to know, all that matters is that with regards to the Proline devices, we will be releasing obviously a line that is Windows 11 ready. Now, to answer your question, it's quite simple. If you look at your desktop, you will always see a little Windows icon with an orange little bubble, and that's basically indicating to you that there are upgrades ready. Now, if there's a little Windows icon with a blue bubble, it's basically saying that your computer does have Windows 11. You can access it, you can upgrade. So it is a lengthy process because your system has to rebuild itself or reconfigure itself. So
obviously backups are extremely important.
Yes, yeah, I would back up before doing it.
Yes,
I've done it. I've done it on quite a few of my own personal devices on my desktops and as well as my laptops, and it took about an hour each, and the process is quite simple. Windows walks you through it in step by step. It'll say this is what's going to happen. This is what's going to happen. Tells you at any given stage as to what's happening. There was a little time where it was a black screen for about 10 minutes and I was a little bit nervous, but it came back. It came back. So yeah, I'm very impatient when it comes to that. So when you actually get into Windows 11, it is a little bit of a different feel, which will be spoken about. But for the general feel, everything's pretty much the same.
Where it's supposed to be. It's not like
it's a little bit different. It's
slightly different, but yeah. I mean, you're going to find if you're looking for your documents or you're looking for your different things,
things are still going to be in the same place.
That's obviously, I think, for me, definitely a thing where if you play between different OSs, but changes on things, because there was quite a vast change between 8 to 10, and then obviously, so I would say 11 is like a 10.0 on a flipping hybrid or super scale.
Yeah, they've done a lot of cool improvements with regards to usability, and the world's focusing now on almost that instant gratification, making sure that you're able to do what you want to do when you want to do. And Windows has really done a great job. I'm a massive Windows fan because basically all my programs run on Windows, and they've really made usability quite easy. And depending on the notebook, I'm speaking in general terms here, but Windows 11, especially with their work with the CPU manufacturers, have created a architectural framework that they work more in harmony. So you will find that your PCs actually run faster on Windows 11 for the most part.
I've actually heard that Teams, etc., uses a lot less resources on your machine, which allows your machine. It plays in so many things. It doesn't use so much power. It doesn't 100%. Use the CPU overload, which is an important thing for that side. So so that's great. Thank you, Jonathan. I really appreciate you giving us a technical look at things and allowing us to discuss the Proline notebook as well as the Windows 11 aspect and what the requirements are. So I think we've gone enough into the notebooks for now. I'd like to hand over to Gavin Barr from Microsoft. He's a Microsoft Master Trainer, and he will take it from here. Thank you.
Thank you, Gareth. Hi, everyone. My name is Gavin, and I represent Microsoft as the Commercial Master Trainer in the DPSS team. And today, I'm going to walk you through Windows 11. So let's get started. In the agenda today, we'll look at some of the market opportunities, we'll get to know Windows 11, and also answer some of the frequently asked questions that we get from our customers when they're selling Windows 11 devices. So let's get started. If we look at some of the challenges that we're facing in the world today with the hybrid work scenarios, one of these is cognitive overload. We were spending more and more time in front of our PCs, whether it's in our home environment or at work. We just spend more and more time in front of our screens. And Windows is addressing that with this new streamlined UI, which I'll mention and show you a bit later. Flexible work style. You want to be able to work anywhere, be able to access your information from anywhere, and Windows addresses that with improved security. And also data security, keeping your information safe from hackers out there. Since the pandemic, we've obviously seen huge amounts of malware and ransomware attacks spiking, and we want to make sure that you have the most secure device available to you, and we're doing that with Windows 11. So let's have a look at some of the market opportunities that Windows 11 brings about. So on a modern device, you want to be able to make sure that you're selling the complete solution, and you want to be able to sell the latest collaboration software along with these latest devices. And what we see here is 69% of SMBs realize that newer PCs can provide better security and data controls, which is extremely important. We all know how important it is to keep your data safe. And here we're seeing that the SMB market is actually saying that they understand that newer devices bring about these security improvements. 57% of SMBs said that they are going to remain in those remote work options. So again, having that device, having a small form factor device that's available to you and yet you can travel around with and be remote is extremely important. And that's what we're delivering with these Proline devices. And lastly on this slide and the opportunities that we see, 71% of IT managers, which is extremely important, IT managers, right, say that modern devices can improve employee productivity. And so again, if you want to make sure that your staff is able to perform at their best, this is what we want to do. We want to make sure that they do that, and they have that opportunity with Windows 11. And then 69% recognize that newer PCs are essential for a remote workforce. And so all the stuff that Gavin showed you with those fantastic devices from Proline address all of these needs. So let's get to know Windows 11 a little bit better. Here's a video to show you some of the fantastic features available to you when you upgrade or buy a new device with Windows 11. So that was some of the fantastic new features available for you within Windows 11. And one of the things you might have noticed is the Windows Start menu is right in the middle of the screen, bringing you front and center all the information and the applications that you need. But Windows 11 is powerful for your employees and boosts productivity straight from the start. It's consistent for IT and for consumers. So if you're moving from Windows 10 to 11, it feels like a very easy upgrade, and all your apps are going to move across with you seamlessly. And we're also going to say more secure operating system. So again, here we've invested a lot of money and time and research into making sure we're delivering the best security possible with Windows 11. And Windows 11 is definitely the most secure operating system that we've ever released. So when you're talking to your customers, we've broken it down into 5 easy to remember pillars that make it easy for you to get this Windows 11 message across to them, which is it's productive. It's a streamlined UI, new experience with new features that help deliver productivity and focus to customers. It's collaborative with a new way to experience collaboration between you and your teammates or your family. It's consistent, so again, you're able to move with all your applications from Windows 10 to Windows 11. It's secure, meaning we've invested a lot of money into making sure that Windows 11 is the most secure operating system that you can buy now. And choice. Proline showed you some fantastic devices that they have available. So again, if you're looking for the right device, Proline has it. So let's dive into each one of these pillars with a little bit more detail. So here we see the snap layouts being presented to you, one of the great new features available in Windows 11 to help you be more productive. We also have the widgets and multiple desktops that you're able to rename and have personalized desktops for each one of those that you've set up. Microsoft Edge is also the fastest browser on Windows 11. So again, productivity straight out of the box. The next pillar we'll talk about, it's collaborative. So again, we're able to work together with Windows 11 and Microsoft Teams, and you're able to share and connect with your family or friends or even your work colleagues easily and be able to have a great conversation with them and make sure that even though that you can't meet each other in person, you're able to connect to each other and stay as collaborative and as productive as is necessary. The next pillar is that it's consistent. So again, if you're selling these Proline devices into education or into SMB, that'll feel more like an update than an upgrade. And so the consistent applications and tools that these SMBs are currently using to manage these devices will be still used when they're managing their Windows 11 devices. The next one we talk about is secure and making sure that we're delivering a secure operating system. And again, we've built in security, whether you're a consumer or whether you're in the commercial space, whether you're using home or pro, we've made sure that we've built in the security straight from the start of the device when you turn it on. We have hardware-based isolation, encryption, malware protection to ensure that you're as safe as possible when you're using a Windows 11 device. And if you're sending these devices into SMB or even into education, we have a zero trust ready operating system that meets your customers' demands. With Windows 11, you can trust that you'll be able to use all the existing tools and platforms that you have to manage these devices and deliver that zero trust ready operating system. So here we'll show you how to get into those new security features and show you where there are and show you some of those improvements. So if we go into Windows security and then into our device security, you'll see that we meet the core isolation, security process, and secure boot all turned on, which means our device meets the minimum requirements for the standard hardware security within Windows 11. And the last pillar we'll talk about is choice. We saw some fantastic devices from Proline that Gav showed us. And again, we have this better performance consistency on our new minimum system requirements on our modern devices. So we're making sure that customers get the best choice and the widest range possible when they're buying Windows 11 devices. With the launch of Windows 11 on the 5th of October, we have a fantastic opportunity to accelerate device refresh and sell new devices to our customers with new collaboration experiences that you saw in the fantastic videos that we showed you on the most advanced silicone from our partners that we have. And so again, all these Proline devices are available to your customers. Just remember that when you are selling it to your customer, reach out to the Proline team to make sure that those devices are eligible for the upgrade from Windows 10 to Windows 11 and that they meet the system requirements. If you currently have devices that are out there in the market and you want to know if they're upgradable to Windows 11, just remember that we have a set of minimum system requirements that need to be met in order for a Windows 10 device to be eligible for the Windows 11 free upgrade. That is that it needs to meet those minimum specs. It also needs to have the TPM chip or Trusted Platform Module 2.0 turned on. It also needs to have UEFI and Secure Boot turned on. So if you're looking to upgrade existing devices from Windows 10 to Windows 11 using the free upgrade, they need to meet those system requirements. If you want to check that, you can go to the Windows 11 website. We have a PC Health Checker app. You can download and run that, and it will give you information around if that device is eligible or not, or if you need to make some changes, so turning on the TPM chip, for instance, it'll give you that advice, and then you can move your device from Windows 10 to 11 using the normal upgrade path. So how will our customers get Windows 11? So if they're managed or if they're an SMB, they'll get it through their normal channels that they do. So they might have to request it from the IT team. There might be a testing process and all that in place before they actually get the Windows 11 upgrade. If it's unmanaged or if it's a consumer, they'll go through the existing process of going to check their Windows update. And once the Windows 11 update is ready for that device, it'll let them know and they can go and then download the update on that device. Or you can buy brand new Proline devices with Windows 11 already installed and take advantage of all that security and all those feature enhancements straight out of the box. So let's jump into some of the frequently asked questions that I normally get when I'm doing training or doing presentations around Windows 11. And one of these is, I'm buying a new PC, will I be eligible for the upgrade? We kind of just covered that in the presentation, but again, you will be eligible on Proline devices that meet those system requirements. Again, if you're purchasing these devices, please reach out to the team. Make sure that you're checking the device and making sure that the ones that you're buying are ready and eligible for the upgrade. It's really important if customers are wanting to upgrade to Windows 11 that they are purchasing the correct devices. What are the benefits of Windows 11 over Windows 10? And you've seen some of the fantastic new features and streamlined user experience in Windows 11. You've seen all those security updates. So that's extremely important to mention. But we really want to make sure that they understand that Windows 11 brings new productivity features and security that helps them get more done and be secure at the same time. So what are the basics of the free upgrade? So we talked about the minimum system requirements that you do need. One of the other things to remember is that you do need to be on version 20H1 or newer of Windows 10. Those updates are free, so you don't have to pay for anything. Making sure that you do those updates, have all the minimum system requirements in place, then you will be eligible to do the upgrade. You'll go through the update process, you'll check your updates and see if you are now eligible. These will continue to roll out from the 5th of October right up until next year, and so please take advantage of upgrading to Windows 11 and take advantage of all these fantastic new features available to you within Windows 11. So one of the questions you might get is, why do we launch Windows 11 when we said Windows 10 would be the last operating system that we would launch? Well, the goal of Windows is still the same regardless of the number, and our commitment to make sure that we give people the best version of Windows still remains. And on the last FAQ that I have, what does this announcement mean for the roadmap for Windows 10? Just remember that Windows 10 still remains supported through to October the 14th, 2025. So any customer still using Windows 10 can remain on Windows 10 and continue to use it straight up until October 14th, 2025, when the end of support will then be reached. One thing to remember when you do the upgrade as well is that you have 10 days to do a rollback to Windows 10. So if you get to Windows 11 and perhaps you're just not ready for it just yet, or you want to stay on Windows 10 for a little while longer, you can do the upgrade. You have 10 days to roll back and then keep everything in place that you have, all your documents, all your files. If you lapse that 10 days, what will happen then is that you will have to do a reinstall of Windows. So that is something to bear in mind when you're doing the update from Windows 10 to Windows 11. And with that, it brings me to the end of my part of this presentation. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you found it valuable. If you do need any more information, please reach out to me through the Proline team. And with that, I'm going to hand it back to Gareth. Thank you very much.
Thank you to Gavin for that very informative discussion around Windows 11 and all its features. I hope you've enjoyed this webinar as much as we've enjoyed putting it together for you and going through everything. Please follow us on the Pinnacle website. It's www.pinnacle.co.za, or the Proline and the Proline website. Please on www.proline.co.za to find out more information and to see all our new exciting products. Thank you very much, and I hope you've enjoyed this webinar.